Welcome back to Rides and Drives Team Radio. I'm Kaz. I am here as always with Harvey, and we just watched qualifiers for the Good Ranchers 250 at Phoenix Raceway.
Yes, we did. And we found out some very interesting things from this qualifying today, that ovals and street courses are completely different animals.
You know, I had that expectation going in, but you know what expectation I did not have?
What
Two,
would that be?
two RLL cars in the top five.
I know. No one could have predicted that. I mean, that is probably more shocking than the two cars that popped into the top 10 last week, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
It's the way that RLL has performed overall, and especially on short ovals after the over the last few years. You would never think that both Schumacher and Rahal would be in the top five. And Schumacher, this is his first time driving in a competitive environment on an oval track. He's done testing, but he never qualified, and he certainly hasn't raced an oval yet. So this is going to be really interesting.
And so cool for us as viewers that he put that time in first. And then we got to sit there and watch it hold up after driver whose name we know, who we know does do a fantastic job on ovals and short ovals, are still coming up seconds off of his time. It was really, really fun and dramatic to watch, and so impressive from Mick, who, like you said, this is his first ever oval qualifier. What a great result from him.
Yeah, it was interesting what Graham had commented after the lap, where he said, "Look, this guy has the smoothest hands and feet on the team. He said he not a better driver, but a much smoother and even more capable driver at times than he is.
I think he used the word graceful to
Graceful,
describe the
yeah,
way Mick drives, which I can't argue with that. He looked really comfortable when you watched the onboards. Everything was smooth. It was a level of confidence that I expect to see a guy with Mick's experience demonstrate, but I expected to see that on a road course before I saw it on an oval.
yeah. So, that was big news coming out of the qualifiers. The other piece of big news, we said it in our pre-race kind of recap. Penske's back.
I think Penske's back. I think
The,
we can say Penske's back.
yep, the evil empire has returned.
I'm so happy. I love a strong Team Penske. I think it just adds so much drama for all of us. Last season was so strange, having to kind of count them out, the amount of times we had to. I
Right.
love all three of those drivers, but I think we should start by talking about, for a little bit longer, little Davy.
Yeah, little Dave went out there and put in a lap that no one could touch. I mean, no one even came close
It
to
was
his
a
lap.
legendary lap. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, when you looked at when they did the ghost car and his car versus the other cars and the lines he took, and you looked at the telemetry of his throttle positioning, he clearly had a car that he was very comfortable with, because he was driving right down to the line, right up to the wall, barely lifting in 3-4, when there were times with other drivers where they were 100% off the throttle.
Yeah.
So, he really had his car underneath him. He felt great about it. You could tell. And Joseph had nothing but great things to say about his performance on that. But now you've got 2 weeks in a row with Penske on the pole,
Hmm.
right?
Oof.
New Garden, you know, putting in that kind of performance today, considering what happened to him last week, and, where he started back in the pack, but would manage to move his way forward. Yeah, I think we can safely say that Penske is back. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with on every type of circuit going forward. So, yeah, game on. Let's see what Alex can do now after qualifying 10th, right?
Yeah, Alex is such a, we had talked on our Thursday episode about what does Alex mean when he says he's not confident. And I think that this is great news for everybody else. Alex maybe doesn't have the setup he is looking for on tracks like this, and everybody else can pick up points here. Um,
Well, it's pretty clear that Ganassi didn't have the setup right overall because you look at where all their drivers are.
mhm.
They're not, Alex had qualified best of all of them, right? He's
At
10th.
10th. Yeah.
Yeah, at 10th.
Which is
So,
not what you expect from Ganassi. The preseason, the talk was consistently Ganassi's firing at 10 out of 10.
right.
And
And
everybody else is kind of trying to figure out how do we get from 8 to 10? How do we get from 9 to 10? Ganassi didn't look 10 out of 10 here at all.
no, and they're 10th, 15th, and 19th
Yeah.
is where they qualified. So, and you're talking about Dixon, who has the most oval experience of anyone on the grid. He's won in Phoenix before,
Mhm.
and he should be comfortable there. So clearly they didn't have the setup right. Also, it looks like the Honda engine is a bit on the back foot here at Phoenix. We've got what's the top 10 look like?
7 out of our top 10 drivers drive a Honda or drive a Chevy engine. Sorry, we've got 3 Hondas in the top 10. It's Alex Palou, that's to be expected, and 2 RLLs.
Right, right.
Something
So
is very interesting there.
yeah, somehow on these ovals, the Chevy just works a little better. We kind of expected that after, a few of the things last year, but
Well, and especially
it
after
just
Phoenix testing, but the Honda engine looked stronger after Sebring testing on those types of tracks. And then we got to St. Pete and we saw a fair balance. I
right.
wasn't, I thought that the Chevrolet was the obvious favorite out of testing, but I also thought that maybe the same thing last week would apply here, where we
Right.
see in race scenarios things are looking a little different. And look, in race scenarios they might be, but when it comes to putting the fastest lap down, clearly the Chevrolet engine has an advantage.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how race setup happens because when you're going for a qualifying lap like that, you're really trying to figure out how little downforce you can put on the car and still make it stick, right?
Hmm.
And they talked about that on the broadcast that maybe some of the guys had too much downforce in their setup and that took a mile or two per hour off their top speed. Well, in race pace, that mile or two per hour top speed is not going to matter as much,
Yeah.
right? Because you're running in traffic and you're running close together, and you're trying to make those tires last for, a 30 lap stint or whatever it's going to be, and so the race pace will be interesting to see whether there's as a big a difference between the two engines as there was in qualifying, clearly.
Yeah, it will. And the question is also, is the qualifying advantage so significant that it's difficult to make up for in a race situation, which it might very well be.
Yeah, we've seen on ovals, Milwaukee last year is a great example where cars could come from the back and move forward, right?
Hmm.
Rasmussen and Rossi both made significant moves through the field. So it's not like you're stuck in your position the way you are in some other series.
I'm always assuming on an oval race that we're going to see a lot of movement. This one in particular, the drivers sound more and more confident about opening up an extra racing lane
Yep.
on particular spots. But the way they've been talking recently, it seems like they think that there's going to be a good amount of passing opportunities for
Yeah.
us. And then, of course, with an oval, there's also, you're always going to have cautions. You're
Right.
always going to have incidents because people are trying to thread that needle and run all the way down and then all the way to the wall. We're not going to escape this without 3 to 5 cautions minimum. It's it's just timing sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes it comes down to luck. Did you pit right before a caution? Well, shoot.
Yep.
It's just a lot of luck that goes into movements on an oval, and that makes it so exciting because anybody from the back can move all the way up.
And the other thing they're talking about is it's going to be a lot windier tomorrow, which
Hmm.
could affect how the cars handle and their ability, to stick coming out of turn two. So we'll see what happens with these incidents because we had two wrecks today, right?
Yeah.
We had Rosenquist crash in practice. He wasn't able to qualify because of his crash. They couldn't get it prepped in time, couldn't get his car prepped in time. And then
Oh man,
I know,
Will, I what a disastrous start for his season. I can't think of another word for it.
yeah, I mean, he's been on the track for, three or four times and he's crashed three times. And, you can maybe write off those two in St. Pete to some issue with a suspension or brake balance or whatever. But this one, this was not a great crash and he was running spectacularly at the time. He was, if not as quick as Malukas, he was close.
He was looking
So
quite racy coming out of that first lap. That was my loudest moment of qualifiers. Seeing him hit the wall there was just such a disappointment. We all know he's willpower and he can adapt to the car. And once he does, look out, everybody. But the fact that it's taking him longer than we had hoped and expected.
yeah, I mean, it now points to the fact that you really wish he could have gotten out of his contract a little earlier and joined the team sooner than the first of the year,
Yeah,
because maybe more sim time, whatever else, something might have helped him if he could have done a couple of those fall practices that they had. He might be further along, but that's not the case. So, we're gonna see how he does in the race, right? He's gonna be starting not last, but pretty close. And
24, I would
yeah,
think.
he's got a lot of cars to pass. So if there's
Yeah.
someone who can do it, it's
It's
him,
Will.
right?
Look, different oval, but at the Indy 500 last year, we had Joseph Newgarden starting at the back on the back row. Before he's a guy who I think can pass anyone
Yeah.
on any oval ever. I feel the same about Will. Um, if Joseph hadn't have gotten scooped up, I think he was up to sixth by the time he got scooped up in an incident. So it's entirely possible for Will to come from the back and make it into that top 10, into that top five.
Right.
But the more he struggles to adapt to the Andretti, the less I expect him to come back from
Well, and
24.
and let's talk about this because Andretti did not have a good day today.
No,
None of their cars are in the top 10, correct? Um,
absolutely correct.
yeah, I mean, Kirkwood was the highest qualifier at 11. So, that's a problem. The other team that I think didn't fare as well as I would have expected is McLaren, Arrow McLaren. You know, Pato starting sixth, seventh, and Nolan Siegel in ninth. But as we noted, it seems like the Chevys have an advantage, and you would think they would have qualified ahead of the RLL cars.
Pato in particular, I would
Right.
expect to be ahead of the RLL cars, just given his experience and expertise on ovals. I know, I think when we're talking about McLaren, that's a really interesting team. I really think Christian Lundgaard is getting to a point in his career where he's trying to prove that McLaren doesn't have a number one driver. It's not the Pato show. Much of a rock star as he is, Christian Lundgaard wants to be there too. Seeing him put in such a low performance today was
Yeah. doesn't help his
You know,
case at all for
I guess
that.
it's not entirely surprising. He normally puts in his better performances on road courses, but he's still done well on ovals in the past, and
And
you want to see him running closer to Pato.
he's been with the team long enough, and
Yeah,
he's an IndyCar driver. So you have to perform on ovals,
yeah.
right? Even if they're not your best, you still have to deliver decently. And 17th, probably not where the team wants him to be.
When Pato was able to qualify seventh, Christian Lugar should have been in the top 10.
Right. You would think so. But that's one of the interesting things about these qualifyings, and one of the interesting things about IndyCar in general is they're so close that if you make one little mistake, and we saw it several times where people got just out of line, a little bobble, and all
Little
of a
wiggles.
sudden that's a tenth or two, and you go from a time that'll put you in the top 10 to the bottom 10. So, and that's what we love about IndyCar racing is you can see an RLL all of a sudden pop up and be competitive. And now, let's see what Mick can do in a race, right?
Yeah, I'm really really interested to watch Mick tomorrow. And look, being able to put in two super fast laps doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to hang on for the full race, especially again, look, he doesn't have experience with ovals and showed us that he can do it today. So maybe the race will be. Joseph Newgarden said at the press conference after, some guys come in and they're just naturals, but most of the time, once you get into that full race and you get into traffic, you might see a novice oval driver not be able to hang on to that spot, even if they're doing a good job. I think that that's probably something that we're going to see from Mick. Realistically, I don't expect him to finish fourth or better. He's just
Yeah, I
driving with
mean,
too many guys who know how to do an oval all the way through the race.
think about last week when Hauger started
Yeah,
so high and, immediately fell back a few positions. I think in part because he didn't want to be the incident, you
sure.
know,
He
but
didn't want to make the
also,
rookie mistake.
right, but also because he didn't have the experience to hang with those guys. We'll see if that happens tomorrow with Mick. I won't be surprised if it does, but at the same time, he's being well coached. He's got a good team, and he's starting behind some good drivers that if he can just follow their line and
Mhm.
be smart about it, he can finish very high.
We should talk for a second about how heartwarming the relationship between him and Graham is. I really love seeing the two of them together and listening to the way they support each other.
Yeah, and it goes back to even when they first announced Mick as a driver on the team. And I remember Graham saying, when I was a kid watching racing, I idolized his dad, not my dad. When he knew his dad,
Yeah.
right? But watching Mick and Mick's dad, Michael, race and becoming a fan of him, and now being able to mentor Mick has got to be great for him. And to watch Mick, come off the track and Graham put his arms around him and just tell him what a great job he did. I thought that was phenomenal.
It's just such a nice story. Two sons of absolutely legendary fathers looking to carve their own legend in this sport. And and what a great landing place for Mick. I mean, there are a lot of teams that would have been interested in signing Mick Schumacher. I'm so happy he wound up somewhere where he's got a mentor who really understands the very unique pressures of having Michael Schumacher as your father.
Right. I think there's that part of it. And I think the other part of it is honestly coming into RLL, you're coming into a team with low expectations.
Yeah.
If he jumps in a Penske seat when
Whoa.
Penske's on all firing, then the pressure's on, right? If he jumps into Andretti when Andretti's firing on all cylinders, the pressure's on. But he's at RLL, a team that is still finding its way. And so that gives him a little more grace period than if he were on one of the teams that's expected to run up front.
And it makes it all the more impressive when he does put in a performance like he put in today.
Yeah.
That's a big stamp on his season right at the beginning. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll give him confidence going into, Barber, where he should be comfortable, going
Hmm.
into Arlington, where he should be comfortable. Those street courses and road courses should fit him better. And if all of a sudden he can run up front on an oval too,
Look
well,
out.
look out. Yeah, let's see what happens. So,
I would love to see RLL have a great season, especially watching these two guys put it together. And Louis Foster, couple of bobbles, but
right.
if he hadn't have bobbled in that way, I think he also would have had a pretty,
Yeah,
definitely
he's
outkicked his
16th.
coverage.
Yeah, he was 16th. He probably would have been top 10 if he hadn't had those two bobbles coming out of those corners. So that leads us into the race tomorrow and our predictions, Kaz.
Yeah, what do we think is going to happen? And before we get into predictions, I'm going to borrow a phrase from last year's Milwaukee race. I believe it was Lil Davy who told us Milwaukee was going to be beautiful chaos. I think Phoenix might echo that, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, those short ovals do tend to lead to a little chaos. So let's see how it goes. I get to pick first this week.
Yes, we
So,
are playing Victory Lane. Harvey,
you know
who do you
what?
have on the third step of the podium?
On the third step of the podium, I'm going to go Alex Palou. I think Alex runs a smart race, keeps it clean, and gets himself on the podium.
There's every chance that happens. It's Alex Palou, and he didn't put in the fastest two laps, but you're right. There are so many choices that are going to happen in this race.
Hmm.
I am going to take for the third step of the podium, I'm going to put Pato Award.
Oh,
Like we said, McLaren has underperformed a little bit so far this season, but it's Pato on a short oval.
sure.
Starting within the top 10. I expect him to move up a couple of places. He's going to make smart moves at the right time. He knows how important timing is when it comes to making overtakes on an oval. I I think he's ready to come out and prove it.
I think that's a solid pick. I think Pato will be there. I mean, he was right there in Nashville last year until he had a tire go down.
Hmm.
He knows how to drive ovals. He's definitely podium worthy. My number two step of the podium, I'm
Okay.
going with David Malukas.
Oh, okay, great.
I think I think he stays up there, and I think Penske has some solid strategy. So,
He looks strong and comfortable. I loved watching his smooth hands behind those onboards. You're right. He looked comfortable in that car, and that says everything.
and he
Um,
talked about the balance too, about what in the post-race press conference he talked about trying to find that balance and making sure that so he knows what he wants out of his car, and
yeah,
I think he's going to get there.
I'm gonna do a little strategy here because I'm guessing who you're gonna put first, and I think he's gonna be on the podium. So I'm gonna take Joseph Newgarden for number two.
I think that's a smart pick because you're right. I am going to take Joseph Newgarden as my winner of this race. I think his experience will take him past his teammate.
For the record, I think he's gonna win the race. He's a shark. And
Hmm.
he's starting right, but he's just swimming right behind you. He knows exactly when to make those passes. And I mean, we saw how dangerous on ovals he is in Nashville last year.
Sure.
He's terrifying. Um, uh, let's
And
see.
and he is, as they noted in the press conference, the returning champion of this race, even though it was 6, 7 years ago,
I
right?
would love to see him come back and say, "This is my race." I'm always a fan of Joseph's. I'm looking forward to seeing him drive tomorrow, and I think he's going to look great. Um, what am I gonna do here? I'm gonna go Scott McLaughlin.
Oh, up
I'm
from fifth.
it's still gonna be a Penske one too, I think. I agree with you about that. But I'm gonna go Scott McLaughlin. And maybe I'm just picking that for fun. Because I think
Okay.
Malukas has every chance of winning this race, and a better starting position than McLaughlin does. Um, I just want to have a little fun.
Okay. I think that's a solid pick. I think there are other guys we can look at who, certainly could wind up on the podium. I'd keep my eye on Rossi. I'd keep my eye on Kirkwood. If, Andretti figures out the balance on that car, he could certainly move up into a podium type position. So, but
Just because I think that Mick is likely to drop a few positions, I'm not counting either of those RLL drivers in the top 10 out. Graham has all the experience
yeah,
necessary to make smart choices. He's showed us that multiple times in the past. And with a good starting position, he is as dangerous as anybody out there. And again, as Joseph said, some guys do just come in and get ovals.
right.
And maybe Mick does.
Let's find out.
Let's find out. Maybe he's got this excellent talent that the Europeans never tapped into by ignoring how great oval races are. Oh, guys, you're sleeping on it.
That's right. So, biggest mover.
Who do you got?
Well, I'm taking the obvious choice on this one. Assuming he finishes the race, I'm taking willpower.
Yeah,
I
that's a
think,
smart choice. It's also a little dangerous.
yeah,
I think it's
considering his
fair to
luck to start
say,
the season,
I don't even know that I want to say luck. I think it's fair to say he doesn't fully understand the Andretti yet.
that could be. But I'm going to take him anyway because I think he can move into the top 15 easily and challenge the top 10.
I'm going to take a guy who does fully understand his car. It's Scott Dixon.
Okay, move from 15th.
Yeah, that's
He's
not
going to,
so far back, but
no,
he's more than capable of moving from 15 all the way up to one. I
sure.
don't know that he will, but as long as he moves up at least 10, I'm in the mix. So I think
Okay.
Scott Dixon going from 15 to 5 is more than possible.
Yep. I think the other one I'd keep my eye on for a decent move would be Rosenquist if they get his car back together the right way. Again, starting from the back row, in a car that is out of position based on their performance in testing here, I would think he would do okay, and I think he's probably one I would keep my eye on to move forward. And if their cars had done better to come out of the blocks, I would also look at Santino, but I don't see the AJ Foyt cars being competitive yet.
No, I don't think so either. And I think that you just need to look at Kaio's performance. It was very clear that he wasn't really attempting to put it all on the line. And
Right.
you've got to imagine that some of that comes from now. Maybe partially that's him not being comfortable in the car, but it could also just be the car's not quite where we want it. Just bring it in
Yep.
and we'll be okay. The other guy I would keep my eye on to move is Christian Rasmussen.
Yeah.
His teammate qualified quite well. You know, Rossi's in the top 10. Rasmussen did not qualify beautifully, but we've seen him make some really stunning moves on short ovals. He is not afraid to run in the marbles, not afraid to run on the high line. If he gets an opportunity, he's sticking his nose right in it.
Sure.
So,
All right. So let's see who's the biggest bust
yeah,
going
who's
to
your
be.
best?
This is a tough one.
It really is.
Um, I don't, I mean, I almost want to take Schumacher, but I don't.
You don't like,
So
I never like taking anybody for
I know,
this.
I know, but I want to see Mick perform, and I'm not going to take him, and I'm probably jinxing him by not doing it. So I'm taking our friend Stingray Robb,
Yeah,
starting
I
in 12th.
I think Stingray overqualified. Yeah, that's a
Yeah, I think
solid
he got
pick. That
out
makes a lot of
early.
sense.
we'll see what happens. Hopefully he has a better week than he did last week. But I think 12th. I'll be surprised if he finishes, in the top 20, honestly.
Yeah. Um, this is also a really tricky category for me this week. I guess I'll undo your jinx and take Mick Schumacher. I don't want to see that happen. And frankly, I'm kind of tossing up between Mick and Graham,
Hmm.
just because I don't think that RLL has the luck that they're both going to finish well.
Sure.
Um, and incidents happen. Anybody in the top 10 could be knocked out by something stupid. So anybody here is a good pick. I'm going to take Mick Schumacher, though, just because I agree with you. There are powers at play in the universe and there are jinxes. And hopefully, if I take him, then he will finish really well. And I can be happy to watch a good race.
Great.
I should care more about my own points, but I just don't.
Well, you have the lead now. So,
Yeah, I
okay.
can I can toy around a little bit.
So here's the plot twist for me,
Hmm.
as that Andretti has a bounce back day tomorrow. That their three cars show strength in the race that they didn't show in qualifying, and that they are going to have three cars in the top 15.
Three cars in the top 15 for Andretti. This is
Hmm.
really, really funny. Um, my plot twist. Oh, wait, hang on. I want you to gamble before I say mine. I feel
Oh,
this is important.
yeah. Well, I'm going 3 points all in.
All right.
This is I feel good about it.
All right. I feel equally good about saying that all three Andretti cars will miss the top 15.
Oh, there we
Yeah,
go. So it's a straight up bet. Do
absolutely. And
do
I'll
you
take three
feel
points
3 points
too.
good?
I'm
Okay.
gonna I'm gonna take 3 points. I would be it would be pathetic not to.
All right. Well, there you have it. We've got our picks in. We'll see where we end up tomorrow after the race. This has been a fun episode. We hope everybody enjoyed it. And you join us again tomorrow after the race with our reactions to whatever happens, whether our predictions come true or not.
Well, one of us. Well, actually, no, we could both lose if there's
Yeah,
a okay. Either way, we're one of us is gonna look smarter than the other.
that's probably going to be you. You always seem to look smarter than me, but we'll get out.
Look smarter. Look smarter, maybe.
All right. So for Rides and Drives Team Radio, I'm Harvey. She's Kaz. And we will see you all tomorrow after the race.
Drive safe, everybody.